Now, the 20th race of the 2025 Formula One season was the Mexican Grand Prix in Mexico City. So, for the Mexican Grand Prix, Lando Norris bounced back after a few races of not being on pole position, and he put it on pole position with Charles Leclerc lining up in second and Lewis Hamilton lining up in third. And then in fourth, you had George Russell. In fifth, you had Max Verstappen. And looking down the order, in eighth position, you had Oscar Piastri, which was not a good result for him, to qualify in eighth position. Okay, moving on to the race. Lando was on pole position with two Ferraris behind. So Max Verstappen had a good start here from fourth position. He went for it at turn one. He went off and he had to rejoin the track, a few places down. And on lap 6, there was contact between Max and Lewis, and Max Verstappen went off. So there was another couple of battles between Max Verstappen and Lewis, between turn 1 and 2 complex, and and turn 3 and turn 4. And Lewis as well went off the track, and then Lewis got a penalty. It was quite confusing. Max didn't get a penalty for going off, but Lewis got a penalty for going off. And, Piastri also started outside the top 5, as we said earlier. He started in 8th position. So that was not good for him. And, as we said, Hamilton got a penalty. And on lap 41 of 71, Piastri was, behind the two McLarens. From the pit strategies, and obviously Lando kept the lead, and he was just strolling off, and on lap 47, Max Verstappen managed to pass Lewis Hamilton, and on lap 60, Oscar Piastri managed to pass Kimi Antonelli, to pick up a few places, and on lap 70, there was a virtual safety car, which, while Max was closing in on Charles Leclerc, Max managed to fight his way back up, up the field, to third position. And then while he was closing in on second position on the last 2 laps, he was chasing Charles Leclerc. There was a virtual safety car which didn't allow him to, fight for the second position. So that was very, very disappointing for Max. And looking at this Grand Prix, Max Verstappen, he lost the World Championship by 2 points. So if he managed to overtake, Charles Leclerc, he would have gained an extra 3 points. So looking at the World Championship, looking back at it, the virtual safety car at the end of the Mexican Grand Prix basically cost Max Verstappen a chance to, win 5 World Championships in a row. So, that was, quite disappointing for him. But, in the end, Lando Norris won the Mexican Grand Prix by over 30 seconds, with Charles Leclerc in second and, Max Verstappen in third, just about a second behind Charles. And after the Mexican Grand Prix, Lando Norris took the World Championship lead, for the first time since, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, which was like, the 5th Grand Prix of the season. And, Lando Norris took the World Championship lead with 357 points. And Oscar Piastri was in second position with 356 points. And Max Verstappen was in third position with 321 points. So over the last, 5 or 6 Grand Prix, Max Verstappen managed to close up a load of points on the two McLarens, and he was only 36 points behind Lando Norris going into the final 4 races. It was only 36 points behind Lando Norris going into the final 4 races, and he only lost the World Championship by 2 points. So this is the race where Lando Norris took the World Championship lead, on the 20th race of the season at the Mexican Grand Prix. and he was only 1 point ahead going into the 21st race of the season, which, going into the 21st race of the season, which would have been the Sao Paulo Grand Prix in Brazil. So yeah, that's what happened at the Mexican Grand Prix, and the next one would have been the Brazilian Grand Prix in Sao Paulo.